Welcome back to the church history study.
Bienvenidos a historia de la iglesia.
Who would like to open us up in prayer
Si
tonight?
alguien quiere empezar con oración.
Lord God, we thank you for being here. Thank you for this Bible study. Thank you for the time that our Jesus has been here. Thank you for all their efforts and the work they put in. We're in a troubled world, God. We're in the middle of a total disaster in the UK. We have another caravan approaching America. And we ask for help for the politicians to start doing something and doing the right thing, and not voting against each other, and voting with each other. And we also, I pray this, Lord, because Martin King was shot 50 years ago this week. And this is a man who changed stuff. And so we pray, Lord God, that people look at Martin King, Luther King, as an example. And just look at him and say, hey, that's what we need to do. That's what we need to do. And just and wake up, because this is no good. This is rubbish. And we are in a completely messed up world. We pray for your help as Christians sitting here in a group. We pray for your help. Amen.
So we have come a long way.
Que hemos venido hemos repasado por muchas cosas.
And we've been putting like the puzzle together of our story.
Como poniendo un puzzle junto de la historia, nuestra historia.
And we've seen a lot of major pieces to that puzzle now.
Y no hemos visto muchos pedazos de puzzle.
And you guys have like the superstructure of that puzzle.
Y también tiene vosotros como la estructura super de esa puzzle.
And so far we've studied the first 2 centuries of the church.
Y lo hemos estudiado los primeros 2 siglos de la historia de la iglesia.
How important were the first 2 centuries?
Tan importante era esos 2 primeros siglos.
Why?
Because the church, well, I don't think it could have died because God was there, but it was challenged by so many different things.
Yeah, it was under attack.
Entonces tenía que proteger y defender la fe por todas las amenazas.
Why else was the first couple of centuries so important?
¿Y qué más?
Because it established different things in our faith.
Like what?
Well, it had people defending the faith, so they had to establish apologetics, and then also the Bible. They had to put together something, canonize something.
Yeah, all those things.
We missed the apostolic fathers.
Yeah, and Krista mentioned the apostolic fathers. You want to translate any of that?
Sí, que había muchas cosas que estaban sucediendo. Uno de esos era los padres apostólicos, que era como la asociación apostólica, que era muy importante mantener la iglesia. Y la segunda cosa era los apologistas, que eran la gente defendiendo la fe. Y también por el último el segundo siglo estuvimos viendo que estaba poniendo algo de la Biblia, de la escritura o el canon.
And so as we moved through the 2nd century, the church began formulating theology.
Entonces, mientras que estuvimos pasándonos por el segundo siglo, la iglesia estaba formando su teología.
Especially the foundational theology concerning our salvation.
Especialmente esa fundación de teología de la salvación, la doctrina de la salvación.
We looked at the fight for orthodoxy, for the true teaching or correct teaching that came, and we saw all these different pendulums as both sides presented opposing arguments, but the truth was somewhere in the middle.
Y lo hemos visto como que las dos diferentes formas de pensar, una que era herejía, y el otro que era el legalismo, y ver en medio de eso era ortodoxia.
And so we studied the apostolic fathers who protected the truth, like a football player in America protects the football.
Entonces los padres apostólicos que estaban protegiendo a esa, nosotros tenemos una bola que es de fútbol americano, como proteja la esa.
And then we saw the apologists defend the truth, the gospel.
Y también lo hemos visto los apologistas defendiendo el evangelio.
And then we began studying the first theologians with Irenaeus, who then took the truth and began to define it.
Y también los primeros teológicos, como Ireneo, que empezó a definir la verdad.
So protect, defend, define.
Entonces, proteger, defender y definir.
And now we're arriving at the end of the 2nd century.
Y ya estamos por el final del segundo siglo.
And so I brought some sheets today because you guys are going to try to attempt to follow along.
Entonces tenemos nosotros notas para que podremos seguir hoy.
And in the 1st century, we kind of saw the spread of Christianity up through Syria. What was the major? Go ahead and translate that.
En el primer siglo estaba como el cristianismo que estaba dispersando hasta Siria.
What was the first main area of Christianity that we studied, other outside of Jerusalem?
Fuera de Jerusalén, que era la ciudad o área en que estudiamos mucho.
Antioch.
Antioquía.
So Antioch, the fish there, was up above Jerusalem. That was the first major center of Christianity.
Entonces, Antioquía, que está arriba de Jerusalén, era uno de los primeros centros de cristianismo.
That's where Paul and Barnabas began their ministry into the nations.
Allí Pablo y Bernabé empezaron su ministerio a las naciones.
And then that went north into Asia Minor, which was a Roman part of Roman Empire.
Y eso subió a la norte, a Asia Menor, que también estaba en el emperador romano.
So I would say for the first 2 centuries, the major impact from Christianity came out of Antioch and Asia Minor.
Entonces, por los primeros 2 siglos, la fuerza más importante vino de Antioquía y Asia Menor.
But where do you think, we're about ready to switch, where do you think the greatest thinkers, which continent do you think the greatest thinkers of Christianity came out of? Rome, Antioch, where do you think they came out of?
Continente viene la gente que son como...
H says Greece. Europe, which continent?
Grecia,
Asia.
Europa, Asia.
Europe.
Well, you're talking about modern day?
No, 3rd century. We're getting ready to switch it.
Empezando el tercero siglo, en el tercero siglo, ¿de dónde viene
You
la
would say
gente
Europe?
que están pensando mucho de teología?
I mean,
Asia.
you're talking about where
Asia.
they came.
You would say Asia.
Well, I mean, we
The
saw
greatest
Alexander
thinkers.
had a lot of great thinkers, and that's in Egypt.
So the greatest thinkers within Christianity, you could argue, came during the 3rd century.
Entonces se puede hacer una discusión de que los mejores pensadores del tercer siglo vino de...
The greatest thinkers in this new world, because Egypt was the old world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of Christianity, the greatest thinkers of Christianity. I'm talking about Christianity here.
And so it might not be the same as the past.
I meant Christianity.
The pyramids and all that, yeah.
So yes, you're going to be surprised to find that the greatest thinkers in Christianity in the 3rd century came out of Africa.
Entonces vais a estar sorprendidos que los mejores pensadores de teología en el tercer siglo vienen de África.
Now, Antioch is still a major Christian center, and it will remain so for a few more hundred years.
Antioquía todavía es un centro importante de cristianismo y siga igual por los siguientes 2 siglos.
And so is Rome. And we're going to continue to talk about Rome and Antioch in the 3rd century, but we have 2 new epicenters of Christianity.
Y por supuesto Roma también siga importante en el cristianismo, pero vamos a hablar de 2 otros epicentros en el día de
And
hoy.
that's Alexandria and Carthage.
Y Alejandría y Cartago.
Now, who was surprised to hear that Africa was why were you surprised?
Y África, eso es una sorpresa que viene la gente de África, que son los mejores teológicos.
I wasn't surprised. I said Alexandria.
Yeah.
So I figured, and that's why I was kind of confused because I didn't know, because before you made it seem like that's where they met. Like everyone moved
Right.
there, not really came from.
Worldwide, Alexandria probably had the greatest influence in the world.
Yeah.
But within Christianity, so.
But Africa, Carthage was all from Hannibal.
From what?
Hannibal, Carthage, and all that was. So I'm surprised to hear that.
Yeah. Most people would think Europe, Rome, these.
Sorry, just a question. At this point, where is Rome on the empty scale? Is it going down?
No, it's going up. On the you mean
power?
Of a power. That is a very complicated. It's beginning to make a transition from prelates, which meant that they were the first among equal of the senators, to the generals who. So we're getting ready to see a shift from these aristocratic leaders to generals fighting over for power. So it's a difficult loaded question. We're going to talk about that in the future.
Entonces la pregunta era en poder, si Roma todavía estaba en el poder igual que antes. Y la respuesta sencilla era que se estaba cambiando. Entonces el poder a la gente que eran ricos, a los militares.
So we have already spent a lot of time discussing Alexandria. So what do you guys, tell me about it. What do you guys remember about Alexandria?
Hemos estudiado Alejandría antes, entonces si pueden decir algo de Alejandría, the location.
Just anything you remember about it.
The person said Egypt.
So it's located in Egypt. It was the 2nd largest city in the Roman Empire. 2nd largest city.
Entonces, locación es Egipto y era de población, era el segundo más grande, la ciudad más grande.
What else? Somebody already alluded to something. Yes, so the educational, philosophical, religious location of the center of the world, basically.
Era como había muchos filósofos y filosofía y era como el centro del mundo de filosofía e ideas.
And this is also where Philo, if you guys remember Philo, he developed the Hellenistic Judaism.
Y Philo también empezó el judaísmo helenístico en Alejandría.
And this influenced a very new Jewish group called Christians.
Y un nuevo grupo de gente que se llamaba cristianos.
And out of Alexandria will come 2 of the greatest thinkers of all Christendom for all time.
Entonces, desde Alejandría vienen 2 de las personas más importantes por todas las épocas.
Clement and Origen.
Clemente y Origen.
Now, we've talked about another Clement before. Do you guys remember talking about Clement of Rome? This is a new Clement.
Eso es Clemente diferente, no es Clemente de Roma.
Clement Origen. So Clement of Rome was the one that wrote First Clement to the Corinthian church. It was an apostolic succession from Paul. This is Clement of Alexandria, and we'll talk more about him later.
Clemente
So
de
different Clement.
Roma es lo que escribió Clemente y era discípulo de Pablo, pero ese Clemente es de Alejandría.
And the main heresy that was prevalent in this area was Gnosticism. This was where Gnosticism was probably born.
Y probablemente el gnosticismo nació aquí en Alejandría.
Alexandria had a presence of all the world's religions there.
Y también tenía presencia de todas las religiones mundiales.
And a large group of Hindus.
Y también mucha gente de hinduismo.
And so Hinduism and many of the Eastern religions, which helped form these Gnostic beliefs, taught that the spiritual was more important than the physical.
Y esa gente de hinduismo se influyó a gnósticos porque enseñó que el espiritual era más importante que el físico.
And this also influenced the Orthodox Christians who began to look for spiritual hidden meanings within the scripture.
Entonces también influyó a los que eran ortodoxos, correcta forma de pensar, porque estaba buscando secretos dentro de la escritura.
And they developed their own style of biblical interpretation. Do you remember how they interpret the Bible and what form?
Y ellos tenían su propia forma de interpretación de la Biblia.
And allegories.
Allegorical interpretation.
Alegóricamente.
And that meant that they looked at different levels of scripture. So you had this historical literal level, you had the symbolic or spiritual level. So they looked for deeper meanings within scripture.
Entonces estaba buscando significado secreto más profundo alegóricamente de la escritura.
And they did this because of Hellenism. Remember, they were trying to show that the Bible was compatible with Hellenism, so they had to interpret it allegorically.
Influencia de helenismo.
But by the end of the 2nd century, Christianity was flourishing in Alexandria.
Pero por el final del segundo siglo, cristianismo ya estaba más poderoso en Alejandría.
And basically one of the first, if not the first, catechetical school was formed here, which we call seminary today.
Y entonces formaba una escuela catechismo que nosotros llamamos en los Estados Unidos seminario.
And this Christian seminary or school produced the greatest Christian thinkers of all time.
Y esa escuela produjo los mejores pensadores de todo el tiempo, de los siglos.
And there were a lot of apologists rubbing shoulders with all the other religious groups.
Y había muchos apologistas que también se codean con los demás religiones.
And one of the things they were trying to show was that Christianity was superior to just plain Hellenism.
Entonces intentó enseñar que el cristianismo era superior a helenismo.
So in a lot of ways, they were a lot like the early apologists we studied in the 1st and 2nd century.
Era como los apologistas del primer y segundo siglo.
But with a slight difference, their audience, for the 1st and 2nd century, the apologists were writing to Rome, they were writing to philosophers. These apologists are writing to other believers to try to inform them, who in turn would go out.
La diferencia es que los de helenismo estaban escribiendo a otros filósofos, pero ellos están escribiendo a los demás discípulos del mundo, ¿no?
Mm-hmm. So several hundred miles away, there is Carthage.
Y como 200 millas o como muchas millas de allí es Cartago.
What's this valued by this?
We'll get to that. We haven't got there yet.
And geographical association?
We haven't got there yet.
And main language?
We haven't got there. So, you're doing good, Gerson. So, several hundred miles away, we have Carthage.
Entonces, muchas millas por el otro lado hay Cartago.
This was also in North Africa, and it is located in modern-day Tunisia.
Y eso también está en norte de África y está en el día de hoy es Tunisia.
That's the fish you see across the Mediterranean from Rome.
En la mapa es el pez que está cerca por el otro lado de Roma.
Today, Carthage is a suburb of Tunis.
Ahora Cartago es solamente una ciudad pequeña de Túnez.
But back then, Carthage was the main commercial and merchant center for Rome.
Pero Cartago en esta época era muy importante porque era la ciudad de comercio por Roma.
Now, Carthage produced some of the greatest Christian thinkers of all time as well.
Cartago también produjo muchos de los pensadores mejores también.
And the two greatest thinkers that came out of there were Tertullian and Cyprian.
Y los dos pensadores de Cartago eran Tertuliano y Cipriano.
And we're going to study them later.
Y vamos a estudiar a ellos más adelante.
So as we study the 3rd century, I'm going to be skipping back and forth between Carthage and Alexandria.
Entonces, en el tercer siglo vamos a estar en Alejandría y Cartago.
And we're going to talk about the other places and the other events as well, but these two cities are going to be our center of interest.
Y vamos a hablar de los demás también, ciudades importantes, pero esos son como epicentros.
And these two cities these two forms of Christianity could not have been more different from one another.
Y esta forma de pensar de cristianismo son muy diferentes.
So while the Alexandrian church was trying to show how compatible Christianity was with Hellenism,
y la iglesia de Alejandría o la escuela de allí estaba intentando hacer comparación entre la filosofía y cristianismo.
Carthage Christians were suspicious of Hellenism and tried to minimize its influence on Christianity as much as possible.
Los de Cartago estaban sospechosos de filosofía y quería minimizar o hacer menor efecto de filosofía por el cristianismo.
So Alexandria highly valued the philosophy of Plato.
Alejandría entonces tenía mucho respeto para Platón.
And Carthage highly valued the philosophy of the Stoics.
Y Cartago tenía mucho respeto para estoicismo.
Or Stoicism. So the Stoics, they valued morality, they valued law and order, they valued justice.
Entonces, estoicismo era más o menos la gente que tenía mucho valor por moralidad, justicia, pensamientos o el estudio de pensar.
So for the Carthage Christians, the community of the church was more important than philosophy, and the church life itself was more important than philosophy.
Entonces en Cartago la comunidad de la iglesia y la vida de la iglesia era mucho más importante que la filosofía.
And in Alexandria, they were kind of like the brainiacs of Christianity. They were more hypothetical thinkers.
Y en
Always looking for the deeper meanings.
Era más como bomba de cerebro. Siempre estaba buscando algo de bomba de cerebro, como pensar profundamente.
So Alexandria is hypothetical. Carthage is practical.
Entonces Alejandría es hipotético y Cartago es practical.
And the Carthage Christians were always very suspicious of the Alexandrian Christians, and vice versa. They were suspicious of each other.
Cartago estaba sospechoso de los cristianos de Alejandría y viceversa.
And there were deep tensions. I mean, not necessarily like fights, but there was tension in between the two.
Y había mucha tensión entre los dos.
The Alexandrian Christians viewed the Carthaginian Christians as anti-intellectual.
Los de Alejandría han visto a los de Cartago como que no eran tan inteligentes.
What's that? Yeah. And you see those two tensions today still. You see the people who in the church who don't value education at all, and people who value education too much. There's tensions in between that. There's a balance still to be had.
Y hay esa tensión todavía en la iglesia en el día de hoy. Hay gente que tiene mucho valor por filosofía, pensamiento del mundo, y hay otra gente que no.
So we're going to see Tertullian and Cyprian versus Clement and Origen.
Entonces vamos a ver a Tertuliano y Cipriano por Clemente y Origen.
They're not fighting.
No están peleando.
But over time, they begin to drift apart because they're different. They're so different.
Pero por un tiempo lleva la distancia entre los dos.
But they never sever ties. They never completely separate.
Pero nunca están separados completamente.
It would be like, Christians in Africa today versus Christians in the United States. We're not separate, but we're so different.
Como los cristianos de África en el día de hoy, los cristianos en los Estados Unidos, por ejemplo, que no están separados, pero están muy diferentes en su forma de pensar.
And so over time, Alexandrian thought becomes associated with the eastern half of the Roman Empire.
Entonces Alejandría está relacionado con el este sección del emperador.
And so like all they influence all the areas of like Syria, Asia Minor, and we will eventually see Constantinople.
Entonces estaba influyendo a los que estaban alrededor de ellos, como Siria y también en Turquía, Asia Menor, en Constantinople.
And then Carthage becomes more influential over Rome in Europe.
Y Cartago tenía más influencia por el oeste, que está en Europa y esa parte.
So we see that Alexander is influencing the eastern side of the Roman Empire, and Carthage the western side of the Roman Empire.
Entonces Alejandría por la sección de este y Cartago por oeste.
And then Alexandria, they continue to write in Greek, and they that is the main language of the Eastern Empire from that point on.
Entonces Alejandría está continuando a escribir en griego. Entonces griego era su idioma que era más común.
In the eastern half of the Roman Empire.
En el este parte del emperador romano.
Just within the group, because they were living in Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So if you're talking about the church, the people living, Egypt was not speaking Greek.
In the beginning, yes. Basically, the worldwide language, the universal language was Greek during this time, so everybody was speaking Greek. So you would learn your native tongue in school, and you would learn Greek, just like English today. And so, you want to translate that?
Que siempre era griego el idioma común y los demás idiomas de su sitio que usaban casa.
That's why all Christian writings in the New Testament's in Greek, because it's a language that everybody could read in that time period.
Era el idioma común.
In Alexandria, they were Arabs then?
Well, in Alexandria, it was a melting pot, everything. But they all spoke Greek. That's how they communicated with each other. It was Greek. And so basically all the Roman Empire basically spoke Greek, but the farther west you got, the more you started getting into Latin. Because remember, Greece, they had the empire to begin with, and then Rome conquered Greece. Sí. So then the further west you go, the more they start speaking Latin.
Entonces, eso es la razón por qué hablaba toda la gente en griego, porque primero era emperador de Grecia y Roma fueron conquistadores de esa tierra de Grecia. Entonces, la gente que hablaba más en latín era la gente más cerca de Roma y los que hablaban más en griego era la gente más cerca de Grecia.
And so, from Rome, because of Rome's influence on Carthage and the tension between Carthage and Alexandria, Carthage stops writing in Greek and starts writing in Latin from that point on. And then Latin becomes the language of the church in the western part of Christianity and the empire, and then Greek becomes the language of the church in the eastern. So they can't communicate with each other anymore. They're not divided, they just can't talk to each other.
Incluso por medio de la tensión entre Cartago y Alejandría, la gente de Cartago empezaron a escribir casi todo en latín, así que no podrían comunicarse con el uno y el otro.
So language is massive.
Language barrier, yes, massive. Massive language barrier here. On the one hand, we're going to see in the 3rd century the church take huge leaps forward in their progress.
Pero vamos a ver en el 3er siglo que la iglesia sí misma están tomando pasos muy grandes.
But we're also going to see the church taking huge steps, having huge setbacks as well.
Pero también vamos a ver la iglesia primitiva en esa época tomando pasos detrás también.
I think the language is kind of like an example of that, No longer can we just share letters like we used to, because now they have to be interpreted from Latin to Greek or from Greek to Latin.
Entonces el idioma también era un parte de eso, porque ya no podía comunicarse juntos, tenía que tener interpretación.
And a lot of this had to do with also in the 3rd century with what's happening with politically and with Rome and the Roman Empire between the prelates and the generals coming into power. Is going to cause a huge conflict with Christianity.
También está sucediendo algo en Roma, que hay generales y
prelates, the aristocrats.
La gente de rica, que entonces había tensión entre ellos, y por medio de esa tensión también vamos a ver que está afectuando al emperador entero.
So there's the emperor before was an aristocrat. He was one of the Senate class. He was a politician. He was, he ran politically. He talked politically. He was trained politically. But during the 3rd century, we're going to see that there no longer are aristocrats. These are generals that are emperors, and they rule the kingdom differently than an aristocrat would.
Entonces, en los primeros 2 siglos, el emperador era aristocrático, de grupo de riqueza. Entonces, era como senador y su forma de pensar era aristocrática. Pero ahora, en el 3er siglo, vamos a ver que hay emperadores que son militares. Entonces, su forma de pensar, obviamente, es diferente.
So, one of the main differences we're going to see within Christianity as a result of this is that the persecution goes from being isolated incidents scattered around the empire in isolated incidents to worldwide persecution of the church, of the generals.
Entonces, lo que vamos a ver con el cristianismo, la persecución antes era situaciones isoladas en diferentes áreas, pero vamos a ver por medio de los generales, emperadores, que van a perseguir a los cristianos como una forma mucho más grande.
Now, there's a lot of reasons why we'll go over this in a future study, but one of the reasons is because, these generals were pagan, they were very superstitious, very religious, they believed in their gods to protect them in battle, and they saw Christianity as a threat to the pagan gods of Rome.
Entonces ha visto al cristianismo como una amenaza a sus dioses, porque usaba sus dioses cuando ellos se fueron a la guerra, era como sospechoso.
And they're starting to lose battles now with Persians and the barbarians, and so they're suspicious of Christians because they have infested their lands with these, and they're upsetting the gods.
Estaba perdiéndose diferentes guerras, entonces están como acusando a los cristianos diciendo porque tú estás molestando a los dioses.
But we'll study that in another study.
Pero eso sería otro estudio.
Yeah. But in the 3rd century, Rome began persecuting the church on a global scale now. Not isolated, not here, there, global.
Pero en el 3er siglo vamos a ver una persecución mundial del emperador romano, de los cristianos.
And the Christians had to run for their lives everywhere in the world.
Los cristianos tenían que huirse para su vida en todos los sitios.
And a lot of their scriptures and a lot of their writings were burned and destroyed by the Roman Empire.
Y muchas de sus escrituras, sus iglesias, todos fueron quemados por el emperador romano.
And at times, the church had to go completely underground.
Y a veces tenía que ponerse bajo de la tierra.
And also there were new heresies that popped up within the church that we're going to look at.
Y había otras herejías también que subió en la iglesia.
So more attacks from the outside, more attacks from the inside.
Entonces era más ataca por fuera externamente, también había más internamente.
Not
Reading the Catechism in Rome, where the Christians are,
Mm-hmm.
there was just weird experience down into these caves, and they used to leave the food up
Right.
at the top. They used to just pull it in.
Yeah.
They
They used to meet in the cemeteries.
And there's like a chapel in the caves.
Could you imagine having church service in a cemetery at night or in the early morning?
This is under the ground.
Mhm.
They built an altar.
Yeah.
Out of the bricks.
Yeah. With all the dead people?
Yeah.
Can you imagine? That's where you had to meet for church, in a cemetery, early morning before work started.
We actually saw it. I mean, like,
Mm-hmm.
this is people in Rome.
And these are more like cemeteries, like crypts.
Yeah.
They're massive. Number of miles.
Mm-hmm. So Gnosticism is the main heresy in Alexandria still. That's where it was born. It's going to take a fight. It's going to put up a fight there.
Entonces el gnosticismo es la herejía todavía de Alejandría porque nació allí y va a tener una lucha allí.
And remember Montanism, the guy Montanus who throughout the Old Testament, even though he was born in Asia Minor, moved to Rome, his movement takes up biggest piece of territory in Carthage. So that's the main heresy there.
Monasticismo es la herejía en Cartago. El hombre que no creía en el Antiguo Testamento porque había otros dioses de Antiguo Testamento y Nuevo Testamento.
So during the 3rd century, the first Christian churches were built.
Entonces, en el tercer siglo, los primeros iglesias cristianas fueron construidos.
So for the first 2 centuries, where did Christians meet for church?
Entonces, los primeros 2
In their
siglos,
houses.
donde estaban
A big house,
reuniéndose,
somebody who has enough to
en
take.
las casas grandes.
Okay, so now we're making a switch now from houses to basilicas. Now this wasn't all over the empire because these would be in the areas that were more tolerant towards Christianity.
Y eso no era por todo el emperador, pero en los sitios que tenían más tolerancia a los cristianos sí estaba creciendo basílica.
But a basilica is basically the Roman, what the Romans would build as your community building. This would work, and so the churches designed their buildings after these basilicas.
Entonces la basílica era más como una centro de la comunidad en Roma, no era iglesia, pero las iglesias tomó esa forma de cómo construir su iglesia.
And later on, in the 4th century, when Christianity becomes the worldwide religion, the basilicas are then pretty much all transferred over into churches.
Entonces ya por el 4 siglo es como todas las basílicas que era centro de comunidad ya son iglesias.
And during the 3rd century, and then when I say 3rd century, I want to make it clear, the year 200 to 300. So 3rd century is 200 to 300. So during the 3rd century,
el tercer siglo es en los años 200 a 300.
So during the 3rd century, the Bible became solidified, and everybody pretty much agreed by this time on what the New Testament was and what the Bible was. Although it didn't become settled, it didn't become like official until another 100 years.
Entonces, en el tercer siglo también casi todos estaban de acuerdo con cuáles libros fueron de la Biblia como canon, pero no fue oficial canon hasta el siguiente siglo.
So now we can really start talking about a Bible. Even though they may not have been bound together, but they have all the scriptures. They knew what was.
Una Biblia, porque todas las iglesias tenían toda la escritura.
So yeah. So in the second century, you have the scriptures scattered all over, pieces here, pieces there. Now they're collected and unified. Also, the church began organizing itself after Rome. It became more structured. I guess you could say, what's the word we use? Institutionalized.
In that century.
So.
Y también la iglesia estaba más como estructurado, o como dice, de institución, pero como decir, más ordenado.
So the Roman government broke the empire down into sees or dioceses.
Entonces, en Roma, ellos separó a
Sees
emperador.
or diocese. And diocese is huge, isn't it?
En Roma, ellos usaban la palabra en español diócesis, pero también sí era antes.
And so Rome then, the church then began appointing bishops over each geographical see or diocese.
Entonces, Roma estaba, was it Rome that was appointing or just
the church?
La iglesia
The church is illegal. it's underground.
Estaba como apuntando, fijando a los diferentes obispos en los sees or diócesis.
And also in these major metropolitan epicenters of Christianity, like Rome, Alexandria, Carthage, Antioch, all the major cities, they started appointing archbishops. Something new.
También en las ciudades grandes como Alejandría y Roma, estaba poniendo obispos que eran obispos arche.
And so, this was a new development. Arche, meaning source or origin. So I imagine it has to do with apostolic succession, saying if you're coming from these, then we can, continue to prove that they came out of those seeds.
Que arche significa la fuente o el principio. Entonces, como decir que si tú estás saliendo de los apóstoles en la línea, entonces tú eres archeobispo.
And when we get to the end of the 3rd century, in the year 300, there is a Christian church in every city in Rome.
Wow. In Rome.
In the Roman Empire. In the Roman Empire.
Y llegando a finales de ese siglo, todas las diferentes ciudades del emperador romano tienen una iglesia.
Right.
And this is all underground.
This is underground.
They have roads and structure.
Yeah, the church is underground too. It's being persecuted.
But God waited until there was roads and structure.
Como que Dios estaba esperando a la carretera para llegar. But if they have actual church buildings, is there less persecution there?
In some areas, there may have been more tolerance, like Alexandria. These guys are all brainiacs. These guys are nerds. They're studying philosophy and religion, and it's a melting pot.
Plus, there's other religions there.
Yeah, so I would say, Alexandria probably had some of the first basilicas because everybody was tolerant of everybody.
Entonces,
probablemente the Mongol Empire, Chinese, both had cities that just got everything and said that it will.
Probablemente Alejandría era uno de los primeros para tener basílica o iglesia porque tenía más tolerancia a todas las religiones, a filosofía.
But the really nice church basilicas come in the 4th century when Rome converts over to Christianity.
Pero la basílica grande que nosotros conocemos en el día de hoy es cuando Roma se convirtió al cristianismo.
But the point is, by the end of the 3rd century, Christianity is universal in the Roman Empire. It's all over.
Al final del tercer siglo ya el cristianismo está como normal en el emperador romano.
So